There we go. We have a few people here.
All right, we'll just give it another minute, see if anyone else joins. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, panelists. Thanks for being here today. You guys are my rock stars. You've done at least one of these before, so welcome back. And again, there were 16 applications, so thank you so much for your time that you took to go through each and every application. That was amazing, and I appreciate it. I went through them too, and of course, the more applications, the longer it takes to sort of get through everybody. So thanks for making your notes and being here today. So to anyone that's a participant or attendee listening, we have 16 applications today that we've received. And each of the 4 panelists will take turns introducing the applications and starting the discussion. So that panelist will be considered the lead reader. They're going to give you a few notes. You know, we're happy that you're here. We encourage you to stay as long as you can. It often helps to listen to a number of application reviews to understand how panelists are looking at applications and to hear their comments. We are asking all attendees to remain on mute. There is no public comment portion of this review meeting, and panelists are basing their reviews solely on what they see in the applications. If for some reason your application is being reviewed and you hear a misstatement about something that was written in the application, such as a number that is misstated but clearly correct in the application, you may then put a note in the chat and we'll bring it to the attention of the panel. Also, you'll notice that we are going through these applications pretty quickly today, but please know that individually the reviewers have read the material thoroughly, so don't be concerned if it looks like the review is short. We'll go through each application in the order assigned, look at the treatment, and then ask the lead reader to introduce the artist or group. Then panelists may weigh in on the discussion and then finalize their scores. At the conclusion of the 16 reviews, we will order the reviews according to score and we'll make the final award notifications. And if there isn't any additional questions from the panel, we are ready to start with Houghton on the number 1 application.
Okay, so this is number 1, a short film. Applicant is Jordan Skipper. The title is Gold. The application was for post-production grant with a budget under 100,000. The project is a short film about the complexities of the relationships between fathers and sons. I like the application because the script was really detailed and absorbing, and the storyline is well developed. The application could have been improved by being more comprehensive. I would have liked to have seen at least an anticipated budget. I think that would have significantly improved the application, as well as a vendor list. Overall, I thought it was a solid first attempt, and I encourage the applicant to reapply.
Great, thank you. Do any of the other panelists have any comments on this applicant?
I would second Hutton's comments. It's always good to see the documentation that's been asked for to make sure it matches up to the claims that are being made for hotel nights, vendors, cast and crew, being local, etc. And I think this application would have improved if there had been more attention paid to producing those items. And I would encourage the applicant to reapply as well.
Okay. All right, panelists, if you'll lock in your final scores, unless you have no changes to your score you've already submitted when you were reviewing, then we are ready to move on to number 2. And Lori Peterson, you're going to help us out with this one. Oh, you're on mute.
Apologies. It's not like we don't do this every day. So thank you. Application number 2, it's called GPS of the Dead. This is it showed feature film and short film. So I'm not quite sure what the objective was specifically. They've applied for over $100,000. They were budgeted $53,600. So this is an interesting story that centers around a musical instrument called the keel, and where the player plays the keel flute to lead the dead in the underworld to heaven's gate. This is something that I think I've never heard of this before, and it's very interesting. I appreciate the musical aspect. It's very interesting of the story. But I didn't feel like there was enough detail in their proposal to support making it as a feature film. And it seemed like more than needed for a short. So I wasn't quite sure, but either one of those, with the lack of information on no shooting schedule, no vendors, and no experience from this filmmaker, it was difficult to recommend funding. I hope they can organize their proposal and try again, because I think that this could be an interesting cultural perspective that would be a fun thing to see, to learn about.
Awesome. Anyone else?
I also like the cultural aspect of this one, and felt that there was, I think the applicant made a mistake. I'm scrolling, sorry, looking for the mistake about identifying that they were part of the shoot, now I can't find it. The marginalized community. Yeah, it says, does the story reflect the lived experience of people of color, LGBTQ plus, disabled or other marginalized communities? And they wrote no, and I thought this was a specifically Hmong project. So I would encourage the applicant to select yes as a person of color. That's the only mistake that I caught right off the bat.
Okay. Great. Panelists, go ahead and lock in your final numbers, or if you changed your score.
Something, Jennifer?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I too, I thought this storyline had a lot of promise. I could see this being a potentially really beautiful kind of story to tell. But again, there were, there's a lack of documentation, which is worth paying attention to. In addition to the point that Christina raised, which I also found, there was some confusion that I had about hotel nights. I think the applicant has radically undercounted the hotel nights. When I looked at the budget, they had $3,000 for a hotel night, which constituted 25 hotel nights at, I think it was 120 a night. And they had $42,000 budgeted for hotel. So that's something like 350 hotel nights. So it potentially has a much more significant economic impact than the applicant was claiming. So clearing up some of those details, making them consistent across the application would be helpful for me as a reviewer.
Great. Thank you for that feedback, Tom. Okay. Let's see, Christina, you're going to do number 3 for us.
Yes. So let me click into there. Okay, so this is a documentary feature with an over 100K budget called No Home Here. They are applying for reimbursement award, and yeah, like just to start off, I really loved the pitch reel and the videos that really helped me visualize what was going to be happening with this project. This is, I believe, the second grant they've applied for. And this is for production. I believe they were awarded post-production already.
That's great.
And I'm just really excited about this project, actually, because I feel like they're very comprehensive in what they're shooting, that they are proposing solutions and a nice, well-crafted, multidimensional story about our homeless here in Sacramento. They've already shot some dignitaries, and they have some lovely footage in their pitch video. So it really helps me to understand their level of experience and competency. I like also how they listed their which grants they're going after. And it seemed like it was well documented for their shooting schedule, their budget. So yeah, overall, great application.
Great. Anyone else?
I hate to nitpick these things. I agree with Christina. I think her assessment is right on target. The topic is right on. It's very timely, and I agree the proposal was well put together and the budget is very well detailed. Again, I think they should take a second look at the hotel nights. There's a claim of 20 nights. The attachment shows 30. There's 30 days of filming, so I assume that isn't just one person that's staying in hotels. So with 6 crew members, there's a potential for 180 hotel nights, which again is a much more significant economic impact that they're under claiming. So.
Thank you for that. It could be that they're hiring local as well, which is also economic boom for the area. So great. Yeah, no, thanks for that.
I felt like the sizzle reel itself was very compelling, which tells me that they're going in the right direction. I think that topic is a very important one, and I really hope that this gets made and seen. I felt like the budget lacked detail, and it's going to take a lot more to meet their goals. So the other thing that I'm going to hype on that you're going to hear me say more than once, because this is a common issue, that in your budget, there is no marketing and distribution plan. The goal of any production should have a beginning to end plan. And many of these films stop at production. They stop at post, and they don't have any forethought for how they're going to reach their audience. I would encourage every one of these filmmakers to look at that very specific financial responsibility, because it makes a big difference on what you can do with your film once it is finished. Where are you going to reach your audience, and how are you going to attract that? The other question I had on this film too, and I would just encourage the filmmakers that if there's actions for the homeless that you can share in the film as well. So, at the end of the day, if you want to contribute, at the end of the day, if you want to know more, just that type of information, because I found that that's what I was hoping for. So maybe they already have that plan, but I just wanted to make that note.
Great. Okay, Todd, we are moving on to number 4.
Okay. Thanks, Jennifer. The fourth applicant is Keith Johnson. It's in the under $100,000 category. They're looking for post-production funds. The title of their project of the film is Resolve. It's a short film. And its intention is to highlight interracial relationships, women of color in economic leadership, and prejudice against multiracial culture. The way they try to get at these themes is through 3 scenarios, one involving a business deal between 2 women of color, in which one of the women is purchasing the business from the other person. The second scenario is a multiracial family where the daughter is being racially bullied at school. And the third scenario is about a young interracial couple with a variety of personal and relationship issues. I like this because I thought the scenarios were carefully crafted and the plot line's a good one. It seemed maybe a bit too complicated and might help to simplify it, so that the thematic and issue focus the applicant wants they can get to more easily. Thought the budget was well defined. Like other applicants, I think it would have helped if they had spent more time on the details included in the attachments. Some of the distinctions about local nature of crew, how many hires, how many hotel nights, so on, were a little confusing to me. So a little more effort in that area would have been very helpful.
Thanks, Todd. Anyone else?
I gotta say, I appreciated seeing the effort that the filmmaker made to push this message out and to get the support of people in the community that can, help him get places. It's kind of an ambitious project to take on in addition to the making of the film, to be marketing it ahead of time. So that was a big take on his part. But it shows great promise, and I think that it will get a lot of support. I still have the actual marketing and distribution, questions. What's the plan? What are you expecting to do with this? Is it segmented content that's going to be separated or together, or where do they anticipate that they're going to find their audience? Those are the kind of thoughts that I'd like to see more of.
So I think that since we haven't asked a question in the application specifically about marketing and distribution, I just want to make sure you all realize that this comes into more my responsibility to ask those questions than for them to automatically provide it. So just make sure that you're not scoring based on that not being there, as again, that was my problem.
One other thing, Jennifer, there's a comment in the chat from the applicant asking for a clarification of the third scenario, that it deals with emotional adequacies in this relationship between the young interracial couple. I'm sorry if I was incomplete.
Okay, so we're allowed to answer questions based on whether if there was a mistake in the application, in numbers and that sort of thing. I don't think we aren't allowed to get into a conversation of back and forth. I'm happy to let whoever made the statement just quickly correct yourself, but in the future, that's something that we can come back to after the scoring happens.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I just wanted to add, I thought one of the strong points with this application was sort of representation, the diverse nature of representation, the intersectionality of representation. I think Todd mentioned earlier about wanting to know a little bit more about the cast and crew and their location. I could decipher a bit from some of the telephone numbers listed, but I don't know if their location is Sacramento. But yeah, interesting project.
Great. Okay, everybody lock in your scores if you had any changes. We're going to move on to Houghton and number 5.
And number 5, Melissa Muganzo Murphy, a documentary, and applying for a post-production grant under 100,000. So the title is The Big Histo, A Black Womb Revolution. The documentary addresses the government-funded medical racism, sexism, and xenophobic experimentation performed on enslaved Africans in the US during the 18th and 19th century by slave owners who also served as certified medical doctors. That's the line in the application. I like this application because it attempts to shed light on a part of history that isn't discussed enough. A very serious topic, very critical topic. So sort of bringing that to the forefront of conversation, I think, is particularly important. The application also demonstrates a strong local component with lots of local cast and crew and companies supported. The application was also incredibly detailed and the sort of presentation and everything included in the application gave me a strong sense of confidence in being able to complete this project. I think the application would have been made even stronger if the budget and corresponding documents were formatted in a more coherent way. And that may have been in the process of uploading it to the portal, but it was kind of challenging to read. A minor detail in what I thought was a very strong submission, and I scored it accordingly.
Anyone else?
Project.
The
is
only
60%.
thing I had, I'm sorry, go ahead, Todd.
I was just gonna say the project is 60% funded. So that was also added to confidence that they could complete this project.
I would have liked to have seen any clips too of what they've already shot. That's one of the things I was looking for in their presentation, was well packaged, but to even see a, modicum of what they had captured would have been cool.
Okay. All right, if you have any changes, go ahead and do those now. And we are moving on to Lori and number 6.
Okay. It's not a real easy way to toggle back and forth. So number 6 was, the film name was Gemma and Lucinda. It's a short film, and they've applied for post funds under 100,000. They're budgeted for 15,400. So basically, it's kind of a cute story. It's, according to their logline, a sweet story about 2 former friends who compete in a pie baking competition, and chaos and old feelings quickly rise to the surface. I thought it was, again, it's just a very cute film. It kind of made me think of a place called Sacramento type of, feel good family kind of thing. I'm not sure where the marginalized experience applies in the story, which they marked that it was, but I did not see that at all. And I got to compliment whoever did their call sheet. There was a lot of really great detail that was shown on the call sheet. A lot of good work there, but the budget was just way too sparse, and it included no detail or context, which is really important. How much of the film was funded? You didn't answer that question. And then again, the marketing and distribution, I'd love to know more about plans for that. But I would advise these filmmakers to go back to the planning stages, create a proposal and budget for post expenses specifically, but just tighten it up. You got everything else together. Anybody else?
Thanks, Lori.
Yeah, I think I would have liked to have seen a little bit more detail about the characters, that kind of could have spoken to the diversity aspect, representation. A more detailed budget, I think, would have been helpful. And then I don't believe there was a vendor list attached, so maybe including that to know who they're going to support locally would have been good. But definitely a fun concept and worth pursuing.
Great, thank you. Okay. If no one has any other comments, we'll move on to Christina and number 7.
Okay. So my screen's just popping up here. Here we go. So number 7 is a music video, Letting All My Demons Out, under $100,000 budget. And they are applying for reimbursement funds. And let's see here. Looking at my notes. I thought the budget and schedule looks pretty good, and the examples looked pretty good. Overall, I think it's pretty good, ambitious, I would say, project. The summary is He's an experimental producer, songwriter, and singer. And he plans to release a music video about his mental health recovery and religious trauma recovery as a gay man. I think that that type of story has a lot of merit. And looking at his experience, I think that he is capable of making a quality musical video about this experience. Let me just click over here to see if I wrote any constructive criticisms. This one. Oh, I would have liked to seen a cast and crew list with the names and contact info as requested. You know, one thing in being a grant panelist, I've seen kind of with my experience is when the Film Commission asks for a specific thing, as an applicant, please try to deliver exactly what they asked for. So if it says a list of cast and crew with contact information, like, and whether they're out of town or in town, that's really important. Also, when looking at those who are underserved, making sure that when you, you know, have like a cast and crew from a marginalized community, that it is somehow documented. So it just makes it easier to go through the application and just cross those T's and dot those I's. As well as the budget, like if there's a whole bunch of blanks and like a number in one thing that's a summary number, maybe just give us the aggregate of the summary so that we're not looking at a whole bunch of blanks on budget lines. But actually, I thought this budget looked pretty good and the schedule looked pretty good. So yeah, I think it's a great application.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Todd, you are up next with number 8.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jennifer. The applicant is Jesse Delgado. It's for a project under $100,000. They're looking for general reimbursement. The title is A Way Forward, and it is a documentary series. It is essentially an 8-hour video training course that's taught by Daniel Hahn, who is the former police chief for the city of Sacramento. The course lays out the history of a variety of social justice issues and tells us how we got where we are now. It's offered, the intent is to offer it in a positive and constructive tone, and the intent is to start discussions about that lead to real solutions for those issues. I think it's a great idea for a project. I think the use of former Chief Police Commissioner President Hahn is a great idea. I think it would have helped if we had seen an outline of the course to make judgments about feasibility and a variety of things. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I noticed it's unclear to me about how much was funded already. And I would have liked to see a detailed budget and shooting schedule on this one. But like he said, if it's a course intended, maybe like the sections of what they were going to teach would have been great.
Great. Thanks for that. Okay, if you have any changes, go ahead and make those now. And we are going to move on to Houghton with number 9.
Okay. Number 9 applicant is Tim Tsai. This is a documentary. The title is Untitled Hip Hmong Innovating Politics Project. The application is for a production grant with a budget under 100,000. The project tells the story of Hmong Innovating Politics, a grassroots organization empowering Hmong community in the Sacramento region. I like this application because it tells an important story, especially about the intersection of culture, activism, history, and politics. It also tells the story of the Hmong community in Sacramento, which is an important part of our region. The application was also very thorough and included a very detailed project plan, so it may be confident for completion. One of the strongest aspects of the application was the community advisor component. This is a particularly delicate type of topic, so having community advisors, I think, is very important in terms of being sensitive and telling the story in a truthful and authentic way. I didn't really have any suggestions for improvement. I thought it was a really compelling submission, and my score reflects that.
Thank you for that. Anyone else?
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, Lori, number 10.
Okay. This is for a film called Japantown, a short documentary film. And they applied for over $100,000. Their budgeted, their entire film was 150. No, I take that back. This documentary, really fascinating story of the lost city of Japantown in Sacramento. And it's an incredible historic topic, the story of something that occurred within our region in our lifetime. And it's important to capture this visually before it's too late and to get the important feedback from the people who were a part of this. So I would love to see that this movie be made. I thought the budget could have been a little more specific. Yeah, other than that, I think that this is really a timely film that should get made.
I agree with Lori. My only sort of issue that I would have liked to have seen was a little bit more info on local crew, if they were going to have local crew or not. That didn't really come through in a very visible way in the application. But other than that, yeah, great idea.
Okay, thank you.
I also wanted to say it was nice having the visuals. They put together a nice package.
All right. Okay, lock in your scores if you change them at all. Christina, you are moving on to number 11.
Number 11. Okay, so this one is, sorry, I gotta get back and get in. So they checked out feature and music video, but then in the body explained it's a musical feature, I believe. So there was just some slight confusion there, but I think it's a musical feature film. Never Let Go, and it's an over $100,000 budget, and they're applying for services of the city. And this part. A talented, nearly single music producer battles with his purpose of life when he falls in love with a deaf jewelry maker who helps him find his way. Overall, an interesting story, and you know, with the lead into, you know, maybe this muse goes on to help somebody else. I felt like the budget was the budget and schedule, like they were downloads from a software or some screenshots. So it wasn't really presented or detailed the way I would prefer. So it just made things a little confusing for me. There was an impressive resume attached, but within that, there's no feature film experience listed, but they had some great content for music videos. So, I mean, good overall. This would be, I guess, their first feature. And yeah, I thought maybe a little bit more detail on this one, but I couldn't really tell, like, because of the screenshot of the export. Yeah. Overall, pretty good. Thoughts? Other thoughts, folks?
It would have been helpful to see more detail on the 63 local hires. That's a pretty big number, and I'd like to see what that really meant. And again, I saw that there were some discrepancies between the assertion of 20 hotel nights and and what was more likely to be actual, which was higher. So it's amazing.
I think that brings up a good point that I will clarify in future rounds, explaining, I guess, in detail what a hotel night is. I don't think a lot of people understand that if you have 5 crew members and they're working, you know, on a 5-day week, that's 5 times 5, so 25 in 1 week. So I'll do a better job at explaining that on my end for future rounds.
And then Jennifer, just to clarify that, what if they have, like, if they get hotel rooms that are double beds and they, let's say, have crew members that are willing to share rooms, do they note that somewhere, or?
I mean, I don't have that noted. I have talked to a lot of people in production who come to shoot in Sacramento who actually prefer not to have people double up, just because you work so hard and so long that you really need your own space. But on a lower budget film, it probably is possible that they could be doubling up. So I'm not really sure, but I think for the most part, people coming into Sacramento from out of town would not be doubling up, would be my guess.
Okay.
And in that this showed that there was only going to be 11 days of shooting, which I thought this was very ambitious to be able to shoot a feature film in 11 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. Todd, you are up with number 12.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Judith Plank is the applicant. It is in the category of under 100,000, and it's another general reimbursement request. The title of the film, it's a short film called A Beautiful Voice. And it's a story about a girl who has been passionate about being an actor. She studies with a teacher, but despite her seriousness and efforts, she doesn't get any jobs, and she begins to question her own talent. Though she has great emotional support from her family, she becomes increasingly frustrated and isolated. She has a crisis, quits the class, acts disconnected, and becomes suicidal. Ultimately, she comes out of the crisis based on the love and support of her family that gives her a glimmer of hope. I think this is a poignant script plot line. It's simple and it's heartfelt, addressing the isolation of those who think about suicide and the efforts it takes to bring them back from the margins. It's a relatively low budget film, and I like this idea, and it's just a different way of looking at marginalized communities. But it would have helped again to have some more documentation for vendors. This is not a big film. The claims are fairly minimal: 7 nights, 8 hires, 5 vendors. So I'm not sure how much of a difference that would make, but it's requested, so it'd be nice to see. But I was emotionally drawn to this.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Any other comments? All right, lock in your scores. And Houghton, we're over to you at number 13. And guys, bear with us, we only have 4 more to get through.
Number 13, applicant is Shira Lane. This is a docu-series, my apologies. And the title is Citizens of Planet Earth. And the application is for a production grant with a budget of over 100,000. So the project is a 6-episode educational docu-series focused on various sustainability topics and the way local creatives are developing solutions to solve them. It's sort of a 3-part win for local. It focuses on local creatives. There's lots of local talent listed in the series, but also lots of local vendors and cast and crew. Quite a lot of interns too listed. I also like the application because the applicant has a lot of experience in the filmmaking industry. One of the things I would have liked to have seen to make the application stronger, giving us a better sense of how interns are to be included in the production process, Are they included in the budget as paid interns? What will their assigned roles be, etc. But a very solid submission.
Anyone else?
I agree, absolutely. I thought they really just hit all the marks. I think it's a great concept, and the idea to shoot segments that can be consumed in small bites or combined for a larger story is brilliant. I would love to see it have exposure outside of KVIE, but I don't know that that's anything that they're looking for specifically. Yeah, solid team, solid application.
I agree with that. I think this is a simple and straightforward idea that's handled very well. You know, when people talk about things like climate change, it's so big, it's hard to get your hands, your arms around it. And I think what this does is it makes it accessible at a personal level to grasp how your life relates to that problem and makes actionable the things that you can do about it. And I really like that. The KVIE lock-in was important to me in terms of knowing that this is accepted and is very likely to happen. And I think that's also supported by the money that they have received from the Cable Commission and SMUD. That increases confidence to a very high level.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? All right, lock in your scores. We're gonna have Lori presenting number 14.
Okay, so number 14, it's a film called Into the Valley. It's a short narrative film. I'm just kind of loving the narrative because we get so many documentaries in this particular format for grants. They've applied for under 100,000. They're budgeted for 23,000. And I found the topic to be really interesting. It's virtually a Thelma and Louise vibe that's going to take us into a good road trip story of Sacramento at the same time. And the only question I really had is that this is based from a book and that they have the rights to the book, if that's not something that would, block them in any way. But I would absolutely buy a ticket to see this film. So that's, I felt like they put together a good proposal. They have all their pieces and parts, and they sold me.
I was a little unclear on how much has been raised already for the project. I saw that they're using Seed and Spark, but I was just curious as to how much they raised so far.
Okay, anybody else? Go ahead and lock in your scores. And where are we? We are on number 16. Todd.
No, 15.
No, 15 was declined. It was a duplicate, so I just declined it.
Oh, never mind.
We're on 16 now.
We can talk about 15.
It's almost identical to number 16, which is the same person. So here we are.
So the applicant is Juan Berryman. It is an application for under 100,000. It's for reimbursement general support. The title is Harvesting Dreams, 50 Years of Carnalismo, Chicanismo, and Serving Sacramento. I think it's probably worth saying that this group, I believe, received a grant in round 2.
Yes.
For a different aspect of this project. The basic plan, it's a documentary. It plans to document Sacramento and the region's role in the civil rights movement through the lens of a group called the Machetes. It was a few Chicano men who organized in 1973 while they were students at UC Davis. And after 50 years, this Chicano brotherhood that was formed in the middle of racial tensions and social unrest at the university. They continue to support each other and continue to support people in the community here in Sacramento and throughout California. I think this is a very worthy project. I think we recognized that in the prior round, although some of the criteria have changed since last time, so we're evaluating it on a slightly different basis. Although there's some discrepancy between the vendor documentation and what their claim is, the applicant is very much steeped in the community and is committed to supporting as many additional local vendors on location shoots, making local hires, etc. I think this is a good project, very straightforward.
Does anyone have a comment before I get to the chat?
I did have a comment about the internship funding. It was a little unclear, and like some were in kind and some were not. As I was trying to make the number of interns add up with their budget line items, and I thought maybe there could be a section of just like interns and then what department they were working in. So it was a little confusing that way for me, but overall a very strong project. Great submission. Just wanted to have some of that cleared up in the budget.
Got it. I've made that note as well for my end, if I can make it more clear in the application. Go ahead and lock in your scores on this one. I just wanted to bring up a comment in the chat from Emily that they do in fact have the full rights to the book. So if that factored into your score, please go back and correct that now. Yeah, they have optioned the book and have the full rights.
Excellent.
Okay, last but not least, Christina is going to help us with number 17.
Yay. Okay, so this one is a documentary under $100,000. And the name of the project is Revival Community Healing. They are applying for monetary reimbursement awards. And here, Revival is a documentary that explores the lives of artists and organizers within Sacramento and how they've shaped a young artist's purpose to cultivate their own lane in the arts. So let's see here. I thought it was a nice, strong concept. It would be nice to have more documentation of our arts leaders and how they're influencing our current artists. The question I had was about their timeline. I saw like a category and then a bunch of dates, so then nothing listed next to the dates. So I didn't know if those were shooting dates or what they were doing on those days. So that would have been a little bit better documented. And the cast and crew list. Again, if those are more detailed and straightforward, I think that would also help the application. But overall, this is definitely something that I would see, and I think that would be a great representation for Sacramento. Yeah, I think that was all my comments.
Does anyone have any other comments? Okay, go ahead and lock in your final scores. I'm going to give you about 15 seconds here, or just raise your hand for me if you still need to make a change, or if does anybody need to make a change in their scoring? I don't see any hands. So Diana, we can go ahead and score them and bring up hopefully the top winners so I can read here. Okay, so the post-production grant goes to Magonzo Entertainment. That was the highest score here. For above 100,000, it looks like we have Sheer Lane and can you scroll down for me, Diana? Who's the other above 100? Hold on. Oh, Leslie Silver. Okay, so Leslie Silver and Shira were both the winners of the above $100,000 grant. Now, if we do below 100,000, can you go back up to the top for me? Who's the very top? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so scroll down to the below 100,000. Looks like we have Juan Berriman, who is getting his second grant. And I just want to remind people that they are allowed to get 2 grants in a calendar year. So he's absolutely in his right to get this grant. And finally, we have Tim Tsai and the below $100,000 grant. So those are our 5 grants. I will be contacting the winners via email to discuss next steps. There's lots involved when you earn a grant. You have to give us lots of information about yourself before we can write you a check. So that will be happening in the week ahead. And then for those of you who may be attending and did not win a grant this round, I just want to encourage you again to continue to take the comments that the panelists were kind enough to give out. Contact me if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer questions for you. We'll be the next round of grants is we're taking the summer off, and the next round will probably close in October, so October 15th, around that time. So anyway, thank you again to my panel for being here. You guys are the best. I appreciate it. Hoping you'll all come back in fall and help me out again. Thanks to all the attendees for being here. There were some just really, really great applicants this round. So I'm super pleased, and I can't wait to go back into the winners and really dive in and see what kind of projects we're going to be able to make here in Sacramento. So anyway, thank you so much. Have a good one.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.